All right, we're back on the record on State versus Loyd. He's present with his attorney. State Attorney's Office is present. You ready to go, folks? Anything we need to address?
We need to witness.
Where are they?
We're ready.
All right, let's bring the jury back in. State recognized, presence of the jury. Defense.
Yes, Judge.
All right, welcome back, folks. Hope you had a good lunch. The defense is presenting their case. Mr. Lenneman, you may call your next witness.
Tonya Loyd.
I'm sorry, Tonya Loyd?
Tonya.
Tonya, okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you.
You may inquire.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello,
Would you introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Tonya Loyd
Okay, Ms. Loyd, where do you live?
in Pine Hills,
And how old are you?
40.
And how are you related to Markeith Loyd?
It's my brother.
What's the age difference between you and Markeith?
About four or 5 years.
Okay. What's your mother's name?
Patricia Loyd.
And do you live with her?
Yes.
How long have you lived together?
At least 10 years now.
And who else lives with you?
My children,
Okay. How many children do you have?
2.
I want to take you back to when you were younger. What area of Orlando did you live in?
Carver Shores.
And describe Carver Shores for me at the time.
I guess it would be considered a rough place to stay.
And did you live there with your family?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit AM for identification. May I approach?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And what is it?
It's a family photograph.
Can I move into evidence AM?
Any objections?
No, ma'am.
All right, this will be received without objection as Defense Exhibit number 4.
Can I publish it?
believe. Yes, sir, for purposes of the penalty phase.
Okay. Who's in that photo, ma'am?
So it's me at the top left hand corner, then Javonna is next to me. Markeith is in the middle. My mom, who's holding my niece. Then my brother Barry at the bottom, and my sister Dana in the middle with the red on.
Would you describe yourself as a close family growing up?
Yes,
And what was your relationship like with your brother, Markeith?
it's a good relationship, normal brother-sister relationship.
When you were growing up in Carver Shores, did you spend time away from your mother a lot?
We did.
Can you describe what that is and why?
Well, at a point in my mother's life, she began to hang out more versus being home. She was hanging out, so we were pretty much there by ourselves.
And who would take care of you?
My sister Dana and Markeith.
During that period of time, were there times that you did not have food?
Absolutely.
And how would you get that food?
There were plenty of nights where we went to bed hungry, but my brother, he actually started, he would steal food. He would steal bread and bologna for us to eat.
This is your brother Markeith.
My brother Markeith.
And was there any role models, male models around for Markeith during that period of time?
No, not at all.
Now, was your mother dating different men? Because you guys have different fathers, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Were they around?
No, none of our fathers were.
And during this period of time, do you remember Markeith watching Roots and how that affected him?
Yes, I do.
Could you tell the jury?
It put him in a bad place, almost as if when he would watch it, it would become as if he was the one being oppressed in that very moment, as if he could feel every lash that they did. It was almost surreal for him, almost like he was there.
And was his opinion about racism and white people different from yours?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury how that was and why?
Mainly because I was much younger, he understood the oppression better than myself, so he always wanted to be different and he wanted better.
If he saw somebody being wronged while you were growing up, what would he do?
He would always intervene. He wouldn't be able to stand by and watch.
Now, while you were growing up, did your mother discipline you?
Yes, she did.
And how did she do that?
She used anything she could get her hands on. It would be belts, shoes, switches, extension cords, anything, her fist.
Was your mom strict?
Yes.
Can you give some examples of how she was strict?
I can recall a time where we were outside playing all day and we went in for a drink of water and we had some plastic cups and we were sitting on the porch drinking water out of the plastic cups. She pulled up and saw us, and then she didn't agree with us having the cups outside, so she beat us for having the cups outside.
Did you feel a certain way sometimes in terms of walking on eggshells when she was around?
Sometimes.
Can you explain that?
It was only because we knew that she was a disciplinary, so if we did anything out of line, then beatings would typically be the consequence. There were no timeouts.
Now, do you remember how Markeith did in school?
Yes.
And how was that?
Early on, he was a fairly decent student, and I think it was mentioned before that, it wasn't until he was in the 3rd grade that my mom realized that he couldn't read.
And who did you hear that from?
Well, me and my mom was always close, so we're always together. So I was with her when she got the information.
Okay. Was your mom upset with the school system about that?
Very much so.
And what did she do as a result of that?
She went into action to try to get him some help so that, he could be brought up to grade level.
Did she try to switch schools for him?
She did switch schools.
What school did he go to?
I believe it was Pine Lock Elementary.
Now, would you consider Markeith, while you were growing up with him, protective of other people?
Yes.
Can you give some examples of that?
I can recall a time where we were in a nightclub and a fight broke out in the nightclub, and I didn't even know Markeith was there. I was there with some friends, and when the fight broke out, shots also rang out. So I somehow got pushed into a bathroom, and then I looked up, and here comes my brother. Here comes my brother bringing people into the bathroom to safety. The police had maced the place, so he would have one person in each hand, bringing them into the bathroom, flushing their eyes out, making sure they're okay. Then he'd go back out into what wasn't safe for him. He would go get more people, bring them to safety. So he was always, his protection was not limited to just his siblings. He would protect any and everybody.
Did Markeith attend church with his family?
Yes, he did.
And was he in the choir?
Yes.
Now, how old were you when you left Carver Shores?
I believe I was probably around 7 or 8.
And where did you move?
To the Pine Hills area.
Do you remember anything about the KKK walking the streets of Pine Hill?
Yes, at that time, it wasn't a place for black people. So my mother made sure that we were in the house well before dark, and it was a ritual for us. We made sure that we had to come in the house, lock all the windows and the doors to make sure that, we were safely inside.
Now, when Markeith was 16 or 17, do you remember him being involved in drugs?
Yes.
Okay. And did he take any of the money he made off of selling drugs and provide it to your mom to help out?
Absolutely. There were times when we didn't have lights or running water in the house, and he made sure that those things were reconnected by paying those fees.
Before he went to prison, did you and your family have a close relationship with him?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember when he went to prison?
Yes.
Did you stay in contact with him while he was in prison?
Yes.
How would you stay in contact with him?
Through phone calls, and I went with my mother to visit a few times.
And where was he sent to do his federal prison sentences?
I'm not sure, because he was in multiple places.
Outside of Florida?
Yes.
Okay. When, do you remember in 2014 when Markeith was released from prison?
Yes.
I'm showing you 3 photographs. Exhibit AL, AK, AJ. Show you AL first. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And what is it? Who is it?
It's a picture of my brother Markeith and his son, little Markeith.
Okay. And where is little Markeith now?
He's in a mental institution.
Okay. I move that AL into evidence
Any objections?
and publish it.
This will be admitted without objection as defense exhibit number 5 in the penalty phase, and go ahead and publish. Yeah.
Do you remember when this photograph was taken, ma'am?
They're about, not exactly sure the time or date, but I do recall.
It was after he was released from prison, though.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And did he try to, did he keep in contact with his son while he was in prison?
Yes, he did.
And his daughter?
Yes, he did.
And did he try to maintain a relationship with him when he got out of prison?
He did.
Okay. I'm showing you what's been marked as AK. Do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, what is that? Who's that a photo of?
It's a picture of my brother, Markeith, my aunt, Jackie, and a family friend.
Okay, I move AK into
Any
evidence.
objection? This will be received without objection as defense exhibit number 5 for penalty phase purposes.
Ask to publish it.
Granted. 6, I'm sorry. This one's 6, not 5.
Thank you. I'm showing you AJ, defendant's AJ. Do you recognize that photograph?
I do.
Who's in it?
It's myself, my mom, my brother, Markeith, a family friend, and my cousin, Shanika.
And when was that photograph taken?
It was my mom's birthday party. It was a surprise party to her. It was the first time we were all together, all 5 of her kids, in a very long time.
This is after he got released from prison.
Yes.
Move AJ into evidence.
Any objection? This will be received without objection as defense exhibit number 7 for the penalty phase.
Move to publish it.
Granted.
When he came out of prison, did you have contact with him?
Yes, I did.
Did you notice anything different about him?
Yes.
Could you tell the jury what you noticed differently about him?
He was more reserved. That's what I would call it. He was more reserved, more focused on bettering himself.
Was he committed to trying to make a change in his life?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about his development? Did you notice anything about his development?
Well, it's what I would call arrested development.
Which means what?
It's almost as if time stood still for him while he was away. So when he came out, it was still being 22, still singing the songs that was on the radio at that time. So almost as if nothing had changed as far as time and people, places, things.
Did you introduce him to the computer?
Somewhat, basically just letting him know, like, this is the era of computers, so everything is being done that way. So
And did he become a Facebook person?
very much so,
And he would post on Facebook all the time?
frequently.
Have you read some of the things he posted on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. And in regards to white people and oppression and things related to that, tell the jury what you've seen him Facebook on.
There have been,
Sustained. Rephrase?
Did he ever indicate to you any concern or fear that he was being watched by the police or the federal government?
yes.
How would he express his love to you and to other members of the family?
It was always through things, like taking care of us or buying us things.
What about his faith in comparison to when he went in? Did he still have the same faith?
Not at all.
Can you tell the jury what you learned about that?
It was very much different from how we were raised. Most of it I don't really understand because he and we never really talked about it too often. He expressed some of his differences from what we were raised with versus what he believed in now. So I'm not much that I can really discuss.
Did you try to tune him out at times?
Very much so.
Because you disagreed with him?
Right, yes.
When you were living in the new neighborhood after you moved there as a family, what kind, and you had mentioned the KKK, what kind of fears did you guys have, and what kind of things did you do?
We were terrified. Like, we couldn't leave from too far from in front of the yard. We couldn't go far because we knew when dawn came, we had to retreat into the home.
Tell us about how Markeith treated his nieces and nephews after he got out of prison.
He loved his nieces and nephews. They labeled him as the uncle that wouldn't say no. Anything that they asked him for, he would make sure that he did it for them.
Did he tell you how he felt about Sade Dixon?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
He
I'll let her answer this one. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
He expressed his love for her.
Now, did there come an occasion while Markeith was in prison that you found out that he had been robbed?
While in prison.
I'm sorry, found out that he had been stabbed.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that, ma'am.
I'll overrule. Go ahead.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My mother received a phone call from an inmate inside the prison letting her know that he had been stabbed in his heart. And I remember it was days when my mother was trying to call the prison system to find out whether or not he was even still alive. And days had went by before we had even gotten an answer that he survived the stab.
Now, going back to when he was 16 or 17, do you remember him suffering an injury after being kidnapped?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain to the jury what you know about that and what you observed?
I remember my mom got the phone call to come and get him and take him to the hospital. And initially thought it was maybe he just got into a fight or something. But when we got to him, he was unrecognizable. They had held him for over 24 hours and tortured him to the point and then let him go. They let him go in the woods and was shooting at him as he ran away. So he saw a light and ran towards the light and ended up making his way to my grandmother's house. So when we did get back there to see him, like I said, he was unrecognizable.
And were the police contacted?
Yes, we went down. My mother and I took him down to the police station to file a police report.
And what happened?
We were down there. I remember being down there for a very long time, just in the waiting area. And he could barely even hold his head up, trying to wait to even file the report. So, they didn't take us serious.
Now, do you remember a place called Laurel Oaks?
I do.
Tell us what you remember about that.
I remember when my mom and aunt went down with my cousin and my brother. And as they were going over the process and what it's all about, Markeith ended up staying because he wanted to know, let's see what they could do for me. So he ended up staying. He stayed for a little while. I remember him when my mom got the call from him where he was saying they were trying to give him the medicine and how the medicine made him feel, and he wanted to go home. because he was there voluntarily, he was able to leave, and they were able to let him go.
Do you love your brother?
Absolutely. I've always been proud to call Markeith Loyd my big brother, and that'll never change.
Does your family love your brother?
Yes,
Are you confident that he loves you?
absolutely.
Has he shown you and your other family members throughout your life the love he has for you?
Yes, he has.
Has he ever wavered in that?
Not at all.
Has he continued to communicate with you throughout the time he was even in prison?
Yes,
And while he has been in jail here, have you visited him?
yes, I have.
And have you continued to communicate with him?
Yes.
And do your children have a relationship with him?
They love their uncle.
And how old are your children?
10 and 16.
If I can have one moment, Judge.
Sure.
I have no further questions.
Cross.
We have the exhibit removed.
I'm sorry?
Exhibit. The kidnapping that you mentioned, how did you learn about that?
My mother and I were together, and when we received a phone call from my aunt.
And as to what happened, how did you know that he was held hostage for this period of time?
Well, he didn't come home, so he wasn't home for that period of time, and we later found out that's where he was.
How did you find out that's where he was?
He told us.
So everything about what happened is based on what he told you?
It's the absolute truth that he has told us.
He told you personally this is what happened to him?
Yes, that's what's in the police report as well.
Have you seen the police report?
I was there when he did the police report.
And so your testimony is the police report will contain the fact that they were held hostage for days?
I said for 24 hours,
24
thereabout.
hours?
Yeah.
Would you agree that your family growing up was a happy family?
We were, yes, we were.
And that there was no serious physical violence in the family?
What do you mean serious physical violence? What do you mean?
I mean, was there violence that resulted in injuries or hospitalizations? Anything
No.
that would be serious?
No.
And what year were you born?
In 1979.
And when was Markeith born?
I don't know what year, but he's like 4 or 5 years older than me.
And were you there when he watched this show Roots and it had such an effect on him?
Yes, it comes on every year around February, same time.
So you didn't see it when it first aired in 1977.
I wasn't born in 1977.
You saw it on some rerun.
Yes.
How old were you?
Not exactly sure my age when I first saw it, but they play it every year in February, still to this day.
What year? How old was Markeith when it had such an impact on him?
So I had to be, when I first noticed it, I had to be around 10, thereabout.
Thank you. I have another question.
Redirect.
Go on, you said you were around 10, and what did you notice?
That when he would watch it, it would make him very upset about what all happened or transpired in the movie, and especially knowing that it's based on a true story.
And did he verbalize that throughout? No, he opened the door, Judge. Just redirect.
I'll sustain on asked and answered. Rephrase the question. Okay.
Over the period of time, from the first time that you realized when you were 10 years old, did he do or say things that indicated he was affected by racism?
Yes, he voiced it.
And tell the jury what kind of things he would do and say.
He would talk about how wrong it was for white people to do black people that way, and it was undeserving. So he made that known.
Now, when he got out of prison, was that amplified?
Yes,
So the level of his feelings about racism was increased when he got out of prison?
yes.
What about his paranoia?
Well, he was on alert.
Thank you, ma'am.
May this witness be excused?
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You're free to go.
Barry Jacobs?
Barry Jacobs.
Yes.
You may inquire.
See right here, please. Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you state your name?
Barry Jacobs,
And where do you live, Mr. Jacobs?
Lawrenceville, Georgia.
What kind of work do you do?
Drive trucks.
And are you related to Markeith Loyd?
Yes.
How are you related to Markeith Loyd?
My brother. Same mother, different fathers.
Okay. Now, have you been convicted of a crime of dishonesty by making a false insurance card?
I didn't make it, I had it.
You had a false insurance card?
Yes.
Okay, and you were convicted of that?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is the age difference between you and Markeith?
7 years,
Okay. What year were you born?
82.
And did your father live with you while you were growing up?
Yeah, he was in and out of the household.
Okay, and what was his name?
Barry Jacobs Sr.
When you were growing up, were your parents around?
In and out. My father and my mother worked when he was around, but she was always at work.
Do you remember how old Markeith was when he moved out of the house?
Like 16,
And how old were you?
9.
Okay, so when you were around 9 is when Markeith stopped living in the house.
Yes.
While he was living at the house, how would you characterize your relationship with him?
The normal big brother relationship. No. We always laugh, joke. He always said I had to be tougher because the world wasn't gonna be fair.
Did he make sure that you ate,
Yes.
that you had food?
Yes.
Where was Markeith hanging out while you were continuing to live at home at 8 or 9?
At the time he was in the Pine Hills area, like Breezewood, Seville Place, Park Hamilton, I think it was called Forest Park.
Was he in the streets?
Yes.
Okay. And would he allow you to follow him in the streets?
No.
Did you look up to him?
Yeah, that was, to me, was my superhero.
And do you love him very much?
Yes.
Now, do you remember the kidnapping taking place?
I was kind of young for it. I vaguely remember it, but I remember what he looked like.
Okay. What did he look like?
We used to say the character from Martin, when Martin got beat up by Tommy Hearns. We used to say that's what he looked like.
Did Markeith look out for the less fortunate?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that?
I remember he bought a car for when his girlfriend, she didn't want it, and he just put it up on Facebook. If anybody wanted the car, just inbox him or something like that. And the girl inboxed him, and he gave her the car. So I think it was like Altima, Nissan Altima 05.
Now, how old were you when Markeith went away to prison?
15.
Did you continue to communicate with him while he was in prison?
Yes.
Did you learn anything about him going to prison?
Just what happened on the court date. It was various different things. So
Did he make clear to you that he wanted you to stay out of trouble? Stay home?
Yes.
Now, when you were growing up, you actually had your dad around and you went on trips with your dad, right?
Yes.
And that's how you decided to become a truck driver.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go into the military?
Yes.
How old were you when you went to the military?
17.
And what branch of the military were you in?
Army.
Do you remember when Markeith came home from prison?
Yes.
Was he a different person?
Yes, he was more reserved, more laid back, but he was still trying to be the happy-go person that I knew when he was around.
Did he indicate to you that he was trying to get his life together?
Yes.
And he was working?
Yes.
And he had a house?
Yes, I was living with him at one point.
So you moved in with him at the house?
Yes.
And who was living there?
Sade, me, him, Tyrone, my cousin Glenn, his girlfriend, and Sade.
Did he communicate to you or appear to be paranoid in any way?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury what you observed?
I know one time when I had a situation going, I had a family issue going on with my kids, and he came around, and I was trying to talk to my son, and he said something. He told me, I can't remember what he said to spark it, but I was like, calm down. Let me figure out what's going on. He was like, yeah, just keep your phone out your hands because they tapping your phone, they tapping mine, so you got to be careful.
Okay. And so he appeared to be acting paranoid?
Yes.
Okay. Did you hear from other people that he was telling them that people were trying to kill him?
Yes.
Okay. Was there an incident when you spoke to Marco?
Yes, that was in December. I think 2015 or 16. I can't remember that.
Was it before Ms. Dixon was killed?
Yes, it was a year before.
And what happened?
He called me, and Marco called me and told me that he was wigging out. As he said, he was acting strange. So he was like, just talk to him. So he gave me the phone. He gave the phone to my brother, and I was like, hey, what's going on? And then that's when he was like, they trying to kill me. They trying to kill me. So I said, I'm like, who? And he was like, these crackers. So I was like, calm down. So I was like, calm down. I was like, everything will be all right. But he was like, no. He was like, if they kill me, I'll be back. So I'm like, but I don't want you to. I don't. I said, I didn't want you to be back. I want you here now. Like, I'm selfish. I don't want you to leave. You've been gone for so long anyway, so.
Was there an occasion that he said something about comparing himself to Black Jesus?
He said Jesus, period. It wasn't.
I'm sorry?
He said Jesus, I'll be back like Jesus. So that's what he said.
And that was before Ms. Dixon was killed.
Yes.
Now, after the events of December and January, did there come a time where you talked to him about turning himself in?
Yes.
Okay. And was he away from Orlando at that time?
I don't know where he was.
Okay. And what did he tell you why he wanted to turn himself in?
Me and the Dixon family has a mutual friend, and he asked me to reach out to him to talk to Sade's mom about her turning them in, or their family turning them in, so they can get their reward money and, you know, give it to her kids.
Okay. And do you recall the award at that time the reward was about $125,000?
I didn't remember exactly. I didn't remember exactly the whole number on the reward money.
Did you want him to turn himself in?
Yes,
Why?
because we felt that, you know, just stuff happen, mistakes happen, but you know, let them hear your side of the story and just trust in the system.
Now, did you keep in touch with Markeith while he's been in jail since his arrest?
Yes.
Do you visit him?
I haven't been able to. I don't live in the state to visit him. Like,
Do you do video visitation?
I haven't been in the state.
Okay. Do you talk to him on the phone?
Yes.
Okay. And would you continue to communicate if he was sentenced in this particular case?
Yes, he can call me anytime.
Do you love your brother?
He's still my superhero. He's still.
Even though all the things he was accused of?
Yes.
And do you know he loves you?
Yes.
And do you have any children?
5.
And does he love your children?
Yes, my oldest asks about him every day.
And how old is your oldest?
15.
And your children love him?
Yes. That's their fun uncle. He makes them laugh every time he come over. He telling jokes, you know, and he gonna always give them some money. So, but it's just the fun part. He's always gonna make them laugh.
If I can have a moment, Judge.
Sure.
I have no further questions.
Cross?
What's the age difference between the two of you?
7 years
So he would have been 7 years
to the senior.
when you were born.
Yes.
And he moved out of the house when he was about 17 or 18.
16.
So you lived in the same household together for about 9 years.
Off and on, yes.
Thank you. I have another question.
Ready to
No
rag?
further questions. Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go. Call your next witness.
We would call Javonna Loyd.
Javonna Loyd.
Please solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
You may inquire.
Thank you, Judge.
See, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Would you introduce yourself to the jury?
Javonna Loyd,
And how old are you, Miss Lloyd?
41.
What is the age difference between you and Markeith?
3 years.
And what is your mother's name?
Patricia Loyd.
Okay. You have a different father than Markeith?
Yes, I do.
Okay, was he around when you were growing up?
No.
You all grew up in the same house?
Yes, we did.
Did you ever go to the same school?
Yes, we did middle school.
For how long?
1 year.
What school was that?
Meadowbrook Middle.
What are your early memories playing with Markeith?
Laughing, having fun.
Did your family have a close relationship?
Very close.
Did you have your own friends and he had his own friends?
For the most part, growing up, we had mutual friends. We all played together.
Okay. So was your mom around while you were growing up?
Working a lot.
And who would take care of you?
My older sister, Dana, and Markeith.
And would Markeith cook for you?
Yes.
When there was no food in the house, would Markeith make sure you had food?
Yes, he did.
Do you know that he stole food?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Well, he would come home. We knew he didn't have money at the time, so we would ask him how he got it. He told us.
Okay. And without him stealing that food, would you guys been hungry for
Yes.
that particular meal?
We would have been hungry.
Would you describe Markeith when he was younger as a joker and someone who liked to laugh a lot?
Very much.
I heard that there were some stories about him dancing. Can you tell me about those?
He was a good dancer. He just loved to dance. He loved to make people laugh more than anything. Very comical.
Did he go to church?
Yes, he did.
And did he sing in the choir?
Yes, he did.
Were all of you in the choir?
Yes, we were.
I'm showing you, can you pull this up? Exhibit 4. Take a look on your screen.
Where are you in that photograph?
I'm in the top right corner.
The one right behind Markeith.
Yes, with the striped shirt.
Do you remember when this photograph was taken?
Yes, I do.
When was it taken?
I remember it was a Sunday, right after church. My mom actually tricked him so we could take that picture.
When he was in the choir, what did he sing?
He sung tenor.
There was an incident that happened at Dr. Phillips High School. Can you tell me about that?
I believe my mom got a call that she needed to come to the school. Apparently, it was a dance that was out at the time where a man would actually dance and shape out with his hands a woman's body or girl's body. He did that on a student. He didn't touch her, and apparently it was offensive, so she had to go down to the school for that.
And did he eventually leave school?
They did kick him out.
And did he start dealing drugs?
Yes, he did.
And how do you know he was dealing drugs?
Seeing a lot of money and just hearing people talk.
Would he help pay for the bills?
Yes, he did.
What kind of bills would he pay for?
Light bill, mortgage.
Now, do you remember when he went away to prison?
Yes, I do.
And did you visit him?
I was unable to.
Okay. Do you believe you talked on the phone with him?
Yes.
And after he got out of prison and got released from the halfway house, did he live with you?
Yes, he did.
For how long?
Maybe about a year before he got his house.
Did you have conversations with your children about his rants?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, during that period of time, was he working a lot?
Very much.
But he had strong beliefs.
Yes.
And did you know that he was working at Texas Chicken?
Yes, I did.
And after he left, he would come back by the house for mail?
Yes, after he moved out, he would still come by at least once a week, get mail.
Now, what did Markeith think about holidays after he got out of prison?
That they were of the devil, so to speak. They weren't days that we should celebrate.
Why?
I can't say what his reason was, but he just believed that they were evil.
Did he say anything about who made those up?
He would say white man. The white man did.
Was he eating meat?
No.
How do you feel about your brother?
I love my brother.
And do you know he loves you?
Yes, I do.
And how does your children feel about him?
They love him.
And you know that he loves them?
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Cross. I'm sorry? Sure. Mr. Buxman, you may inquire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you grew up in the same household as the defendant, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you lived in that household with him for many years?
Yes.
Pretty much the whole time you were a kid?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Would you agree with me that that household was a very close-knit, loving household?
Yes.
You also spent a lot of time with your Aunt Lorraine, right? She
Yes.
babysat you guys a lot?
Yes.
And you spent a lot of time at your grandmother's house also, right?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You're free to go. Call your next witness.
Dana Loyd?
You may inquire.
Have a seat right here, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Would you introduce yourself to the jurors?
Dana Loyd,
And how old are you, Miss Loyd?
45,
What is the age difference between you and Markeith?
almost 2 years.
And Markeith is who?
My brother,
Okay. Have you had a close relationship with him your entire
Yeah.
life?
yes,
And do you live here in Orlando?
no,
Okay. Where do you live?
Mascot,
I'm sorry?
Mascot,
And you and Markeith have the same father?
yes,
All right. I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit Number 1 and Exhibit Number 4. Can you pull up one? Do you recognize that photo?
yes, I do.
Okay. And are you in that photo?
Yes, I am.
Where are you?
I'm holding my little brother that's pointing at the camera,
Okay. And who is that?
Barry.
Barry. Okay. And where's Markeith?
He's holding my cousin, Jesse, with the green shirt on.
Okay. And could you pull up Exhibit 4? Okay, do you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
And where are you?
With the pink dress on.
Okay. And Markeith's in the middle.
Yes.
Is that your mom?
That's my mom holding my daughter.
Okay. And how old's your daughter?
I think she was 2.
How old is she now?
Makensha's 30.
Okay. You didn't want to age yourself, right? You didn't want to age yourself, did you?
No, I just have 7 kids, so I have to remember their age.
Okay. So, what was it like growing up in your household?
It was like any other household with a single mom.
Okay. And even though your mom was involved with other men, it was basically like she was the only parent.
Yes.
She had to struggle.
Yes.
And during that period of time, were you put in charge of taking care of the kids when she was away?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And did Markeith help you?
Yes, he did.
How did he help you?
There would be times we had responsibilities and chores that we would have to do at the house. But I was responsible for making sure the chores got done. So if my siblings didn't do their chores, I got in trouble. I got disciplined for them not doing their chores. So there would be times that my brother would tell me that he would do everybody's chores if we would all just go outside the house, because when he cleans, he rearranges everything in the house. So he would take over all the chores to keep me from getting in trouble.
And was there a situation where your mom was receiving benefits from the military and you had an opinion about that?
Yes, she received survivor benefits for me and my brother.
And could you tell the jury what your opinion was?
I felt like that it was me and my brother's money, and whatever we wanted, we should be able to get it.
And were you getting it?
No.
Were there times that you didn't have any money for food?
Yes.
Okay. And would Markeith steal to get that food?
Yes, he would go to Winn-Dixie and come back with food for us to eat.
What kind of food?
Lunch meat, bread, soda.
Now, there was a time that you went to your paternal family in Georgia sometimes?
Yes, we would go for holidays or summer breaks.
Okay. Who would all go?
Me and my brother.
So you'd be separated from the other 3?
Yes.
Okay. And who was there? Who lived in Georgia?
My dad's parents.
Okay. Now, what was Markeith known for when he was growing up in terms of his personality?
He was a clown. He liked to have fun.
Do you remember the kidnapping?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what you remember?
I remember my mom getting a phone call early between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning from my aunt, calling her, telling her that my brother had been beaten really bad. So my mom and my little sister left the house to go to my grandmother's house to see what was going on.
And did you see your brother?
I saw him pretty much the next day when they came back from the Navy base hospital.
And would you describe the injuries you observed?
He was beat pretty bad. He was bandaged. He looked bad. He had bruises all over his. I don't even see how he survived.
Now, do you know of any other time that he had been beaten up prior to that or after that?
Well, there was a time that we would all hang out at the Fantastic Skating Rink, but this particular night I didn't go. He went out, and somebody contacted my mom. One of his friends contacted my mom, said there was a fight at the skating rink, and my brother got hit in the head with a pool stick. But when the police examined him, instead of calling the ambulance to get him help, they let him go, and he was wandering down West Colonial Drive.
Now, would Markeith take care of people?
Yes, he would.
Tell the jury what you know about that.
Well, my niece's mom, also had a child very young, and my niece's mom wanted to go to cosmetology school, so he paid for that for her.
Was he drug dealing?
Yes, he was.
And he started about age 16 doing that,
Yes, he did.
up to the time he went to prison.
He went when he was about 19.
Okay, 19. How do you feel about your brother?
I love my brother.
How does your daughter, you have more than one daughter, right?
Yes, I have 3.
3 daughters. How do they feel about Markeith?
My daughters love my brother. Actually, my oldest daughter and him are very close. She grew up with us, so she almost grew up as although she was my daughter, it was like having a little sister.
Okay. And you know your brother loves you,
Yes, he does.
and he loves your daughters.
I didn't hear the question.
And he loves your daughters.
Yes, he does.
No further questions.
Cross.
Hello.
So growing up, you and the defendant lived in the same household for most of your childhood?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And because your father was in the military, that is why you received the benefits, correct?
Yes.
And your dad died when you were about 5?
5, yes.
And when Mr. Loyd was about 4?
3.
3? Would you agree with me that the household that you grew up in was a loving, close-knit household?
Yes, we were.
And you and your siblings were disciplined as children, right?
We were disciplined.
You don't remember that discipline being violent, correct?
Yes, we got beat with a switch, a belt, a stitching cord.
Okay. Would you describe the discipline that you received as basically just normal discipline?
It's normal discipline. Just depends on what we were being punished for. I mean, it can be a belt or a switch or a stitching cord.
And those were struck where?
Well,
Where would you be struck? On the butt?
Wherever she swung it.
Would you describe that discipline as just normal discipline?
Normal discipline to be beaten with a stitching cord? No.
Do you remember on September 18th, 2019, coming down to this courthouse complex and giving a deposition?
Yes.
Okay. I believe I was there, Mr. Ridgway was there, as well as some members of the defense team. Okay. Do you remember being asked on page 8, line 6, was there ever any kind of violence or abuse in your household?
Objection, improper impeachment. That was not the predicate question.
I understand the objection. Sustained?
Would you describe the discipline you received as violent?
Do I describe it? It's discipline. That's just the way my mama disciplined her. I was a child. It was a part of discipline.
Looking back now, would you describe it as violent or abusive?
Now, probably.
Do you remember giving the deposition? Again, page 8, line 6. Do you remember being asked, was there ever any kind of violence or abuse in your house as a child? Your answer being, I mean, we were disciplined. I then asked, sure, and you said, yeah, but as like violence? No.
It was discipline. Back then, it was discipline. That's how she disciplined us.
Okay. You remember going on?
Objection. There's no pending impeachment issue.
I don't know what the question is.
Do you remember describing the discipline as normal, run-of-the-mill discipline, just normal discipline?
That's how most African Americans get disciplined that way. So back then, it was normal for us.
Mr. Loyd?
Growing up, your mother was there for you guys, right?
She was a single mom. She was there in and out. She worked hard every day.
She cared for you kids?
Yes, she cared for us.
Okay. She loved you kids?
Of course.
And you spent a lot of time with your aunt, Lorraine Harp, also, right?
Yes.
And you spent a lot of time with your grandmother.
Yes.
You mentioned the incident where you saw the defendant was beaten. You described that earlier.
Where I saw he was beaten?
Yeah, you described
I didn't
it.
see the incident, I just,
You saw the results?
yes.
Okay. And you learned about the details of what happened primarily from the defendant, correct?
When my aunt called, and then when he got home, he told me.
Okay. And after that incident where the defendant was beaten up, you never noticed any kind of a change in his behavior or personality, did you?
Did I notice any kind of change in his behavior?
Before versus after that incident?
I don't remember.
Nothing that stands out in your mind?
I don't remember nothing.
Thank you, ma'am.
No further questions.
All right, ma'am, thank you. You're free to go.
We're down the middle now.
Call your next witness.
Yes, Judge, we would call Odell Jones.
Odell Jones.
Okay. Is he here? Oh.
You may inquire.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Yes, my name is Odell Jones,
And how old are you, Mr. Jones?
44.
And where do you live? Do you live in Orlando?
Yes,
Okay. Do you know Mr. Loyd?
yes.
How long have you known Mr. Loyd?
Since I was like 12,
Okay. Did you guys play football together?
yes.
Where did you play football?
At the Southwest Boys Club.
And would you describe Markeith as a football player? What kind of player was he? What position did he play? What did he play like?
Offensive line and defensive line, but he was the youngest on the team, but the hardest hitter on the team.
The hardest hitter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did Markeith ever talk to you about not having a father?
Yes,
What did he tell you?
that's why he played hard like that, because his daddy wasn't around.
Did there come a time when you got kicked out of your grandma's house and that you were taken in by Markeith and his family?
Yes,
Did you have a good relationship with Patricia, his mother?
mm-hmm. Yes,
And would Markeith take care of her?
yes.
How would you describe Carver Shores?
It's the best neighborhood, but it was rough.
Okay. Did you ever describe Carver Shores as a bunch of kids with no daddies?
A lot of us ain't had no daddies around. I don't know nobody who had no daddies around.
Okay. And the moms would be working?
Yes.
And during the period of time while you were in Carver Shores, did you have an ongoing relationship with Markeith?
When we were young,
Yeah, when you were young.
not just that we was on the same football team at that time,
Okay.
but when we got older, that's when we started hanging together.
Okay. Between the ages of 13 and 16, did you see him much?
No,
Okay. Did you reconnect?
yes.
When you reconnected, what was Markeith doing?
He was just funny. He was funny.
Was he selling drugs?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when he was kidnapped?
Yes.
Tell the jury what you know about that.
What I remember, him and Sade was walking through this little neighborhood, and they seen a fancy car, and they just looked at the car. And I guess the dude must thought they was gonna do something to it or whatever, so they stopped him right there pointed the gun at them and made them go up where they were staying at in that apartment building. I think it was off Kirkman. And that's the story that we know from right then. But when we seen them after that, they had beat him and Ty, like their face wasn't even normal.
Okay, so he had significant injuries to his face.
Mm-hmm.
And you observed that?
Yes.
Okay. Were you living with them at the time?
No, not at that time.
Okay.
What was Oh, I can't remember. I might have was. I can't remember though.
Okay, okay. Did you ever observe Markeith after he had watched Roots?
Nah, I didn't ever observe him, but we done talked about that.
What did he talk to you about?
Just like that. What all us talked about, like, I can't believe they treated us like that.
Did you sell drugs with Markeith?
Yeah.
Now, you knew Markeith before he went to prison.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And you remember when his daughter was born, Kiana?
Yeah.
What was his relationship like with Kiana before he went to prison?
And that was his heart. They were real good.
Was Markeith generous to people?
Everybody. One of the friendliest people you know.
Do you remember when Markeith came home from prison?
Yes.
What was he doing?
He got a job. We would go to labor pool. We'll go to labor pool together. Well, he went to one, I went to another one, but he forgot to talk about when we went to this staffing company and we started working for them, and they were getting us $10 for carrying furniture from first floor to the sixth floor. And it was just crazy.
I'm showing you what's been marked as AA. May I approach, Judge?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize that photograph, sir?
Yes.
What is that photograph?
Him refereeing at the big house.
Okay, and do you know how he got that position?
Yeah, I let him know that they was looking for some referees because he told me he refereed and while he was locked up. So I told him, hey, they need somebody to be there, and he got there.
Okay, I'll move AA into evidence.
Any objections? This will be received without objection as defense exhibit number, forgot the number.
Publish it, Judge?
Hold on, 8. Defense exhibit number 8 for purposes of penalty phase. Yes, go ahead and publish, thanks.
Was there a difference in his belief system when he came out of prison than before he went to prison?
Yes, it was. When I thought about it, we just talked about it. We never really talked about God too much growing up. But when he got out, he just didn't believe the stuff that I believe, as far as the Bible and everything.
Did he stop believing in Jesus?
Yes.
Did he talk about black people being the true Israelites?
Yes. Well, I don't say true Israelites, just true God's people.
Do you care about Markeith?
Yes.
Do you love him?
Yes.
Do you know he loves you?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Cross?
You mentioned that Markeith told you he played hard in football as a kid because he didn't have a father.
Yes.
And he told you that recently after he had been arrested for these charges, right?
No. After he got arrested for these charges?
He told you that recently, right?
Yeah, but I think that was before he went to jail.
You believe that was before he went in jail, not while he was in jail?
That's what I think. I can't remember, but I think it was before, or When I went and visited him, did he say that? I can't remember, but I know that's what he said.
Yes.
Let me show you a copy of the deposition he gave on September 18, 2019, page 22, lines 5 through 14. If you ever read that, let me know if that refreshes your memory.
Because he actually told me why he was in jail. Oh, okay. Yeah, but I can't remember if it was before. I don't know what's a big deal about it, but I don't.
You just don't remember?
Yeah.
You agree that at the time of your deposition, he said he told you that while he was in jail?
Yeah, that's what I said, I guess.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You also talked about seeing the defendant's face swollen after he was beaten up.
Yeah.
You were not there to see that happen, correct?
No.
Everything you learned about that came from the defendant?
Yeah, and his friend, and our friend.
And you obviously knew the defendant both before and after that incident, right?
Yes.
And after that incident where he was beaten up, you didn't notice any kind of change in his personality or change in his behavior or how he acted, did you?
Not really, just that he was just fearless after that, like wasn't afraid of nobody. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
No questions?
All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go. Call your next witness.
Derek Harris?
You may inquire.
Have a seat right here, sir.
Would you tell me your name, sir?
Derek Harris,
And how old are you?
44.
I'm sorry?
44.
And where do you live currently? What city do you live in?
Orlando.
Okay. Are you Odell's cousin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know
Mr.
Markeith
Can you
Loyd?
speak up a little bit, please? Thanks.
Yes, sir.
And do you know Markeith Loyd?
Yes, sir.
How long have you known him?
Since probably 14 or 15.
How old were you when you met Markeith?
Probably 14 or 15.
And how old was he?
He much younger than me, so probably he was either 14 and I was 15, or he was 14 and I was 13.
And during that period of time that you knew him, would he stand up for people, the underdog?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did he fight a lot?
Yes, sir.
Did you start selling drugs with him?
Yes, sir.
And what was your neighborhood like in terms of people, guys who were selling drugs and flashy cars? Can you describe that to the jury? What's that like as a kid?
You basically wanted to do the same thing. You basically wanted to do the same thing.
Now, what were the two options you had in Carver Shores?
You either sold drugs or you robbed.
And what did you and Markeith do?
We sold drugs.
And did you move to Pine Trail on the trail to continue selling drugs?
Yes. On Boston Trail?
I'm sorry?
On Boston Trail?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, were you present when the police and the feds raided Markeith's house when he ultimately was charged and sent to prison for 14 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you charged with anything?
Possession of cannabis?
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know whose drugs were in that house?
Eric Dorsey.
And who is Eric Dorsey?
Twin.
I'm sorry?
Twin, our friend.
Okay. And why were Eric Dorsey's drugs in Markeith's house?
Because he didn't want to take him to his house because his little brother was stealing.
So Eric Dorsey's brother was stealing, and so he decided to keep his drugs in Markeith's house.
Yes, sir.
They weren't Markeith's drugs.
No, sir.
And Markeith ultimately took a plea and went to federal prison for those drugs.
Yes, sir.
Did you have contact with him while he was in federal penitentiary?
On and off, not all the time, not consistently, but on and off.
Do you remember when he got out?
Yes, sir.
Did you visit him when he first got out?
Yes, we went to the halfway house where he first got to, I think it was Enville or Maitland, one of them.
Do you know Markeith's son?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 5. Please pull up.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, sir.
Who's in that photograph?
Markeith and Markeith Jr.
Did there come a time that you arranged while Markeith, when Markeith got out of prison and was in the halfway house, for him to meet with his son?
Yes, I picked up Markeith and we went to Edgewater High School to go see his son.
Where did you go?
Edgewater High School.
Is that the school he was in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what happened while you were there?
We went and waited. I don't know if it was a waiting area or...
Sir, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
You have to speak up.
Speak up.
I say I don't know was it a waiting area or was it in the office, but then we was waiting for him and then he walked out. And you know, Markeith Jr. had seen his dad and since he left, so that was like the first visit. It was emotional.
So the first time that he saw his son getting out of prison was at the school and you were present?
Yes, yes, sir.
And you described that as what?
Emotional.
Okay.
Joyful.
Was Markeith working during this time after he got out of prison?
Around the time we went to the school?
Yeah, no. Was he working generally?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of work was he doing?
He was doing a little construction. He was working at Texas Chicken. He was doing a couple security jobs.
Okay, he was trying to get his life in order.
Yes.
Okay. Did there come a time when you became aware that he was robbed?
Yes.
Okay. How many times was Markeith robbed?
I think 2.
And when he was robbed at gunpoint?
Yes.
Okay. Was he really affected by that robbery?
Well, I heard about it. Like, I wasn't around at the time, but I heard about it, and from what I saw, you know, he really was like, he was looking for him, but, you know, I can't say how much affected him by it.
Did he start carrying a gun after that? Do you know?
I heard about it, but I never seen him with a gun at the time.
Okay. So, sir, do you have any prior convictions that you're aware of?
Yes, sir.
And what are they for?
Drugs.
Okay. Do you know how many?
Probably 3.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have.
Cross.
You said you heard about the robbery,
Yes, sir.
and did you say you heard he was looking for them?
Yes, sir.
Who was looking for who?
Markeith was looking for the guys that robbed him.
Why was he looking for the guys that robbed him?
I don't know.
When you were younger, you stayed with his family on occasion?
Yes, I stayed over there a couple times.
Describe it as a pretty happy family?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. No other questions?
Redirect.
No other questions?
All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Eric Dorsey.
You solemnly swear or affirm that testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
May inquire.
Have a seat, sir.
Okay. You take that. Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
Would you tell me your name?
Eric Dorsey,
How old are you, Mr. Dorsey?
42.
Okay. Do you live in Orlando?
Not right now, I stay in Lake County.
Okay. What kind of work do you currently do?
I'm a manager at Subway.
Manager of Subway? Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Yes, sir.
You know how many times?
The only felony I got as an adult is what I went to a federal prison for. The only felony I have is what I went to federal prison for.
Okay. You were arrested at the same time that Mr. Loyd was arrested for drugs that were found in his house.
Yes, sir.
Whose drugs were they?
Oh, my drugs.
Were they Markeith Loyd's drugs?
No, sir.
Do you know Markeith Loyd to, over the years, been a drug seller?
Yes, sir.
And during this period of time that he was arrested and charged and ultimately sentenced to 14 years in prison, was he selling drugs?
Yes, sir, on and off.
Okay. The drugs in your house, where were they kept?
The drugs in my house?
In his house, where were they
In his
kept?
house, in the room that I was renting from him.
Now, why did you keep them there?
Because it's separated from everybody else. It was my room, so it was in a locked box, brown locked box, and that's where I kept my money and my drugs, and more than likely my guns too.
All right, I have no further questions.
Cross. All right, thank you, sir. You're free to go. Call your next witness.
Odell, sir.
Jesse McCree.
You solemnly swear or affirm that testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Swear.
You may inquire.
Have a seat.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Would you introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Jesse McCree.
Okay. Mr. McCree, are you employed?
Yes,
What kind of work do you do, sir?
work in the field of mental health.
Okay. And besides mental health, what other work do you do?
I'm a pastor.
A pastor? What kind of pastor are you, sir?
I have 3 Global Impact Training Center campuses where we do biblical training.
Okay. And could you describe a little bit what goes on, where those are, and what you guys train about?
We have one here in Orlando, Florida, one in Jacksonville, Florida, and one in Newark, New Jersey. And we do biblical training. We basically teach ministry, the 5-fold gifts, salvation, pretty much biblical training.
Okay. How old are you, sir?
I am 37.
Okay. And do you know Markeith Loyd?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Mr. Loyd?
He's my first cousin,
Okay. And who is your mother?
Jackie McCree.
And how is she related to Mr. Loyd?
That's his aunt. His mother and my mother are sisters. They have the same mother and same father.
So do you recall growing up around him?
Yes,
How would you describe your relationship with him over the years?
we had a good relationship.
Okay. How would you describe him?
A protector and a provider.
Did he have a sense of humor?
Absolutely. Yeah. Always laughing, always joking, always, making everybody laugh. Yeah, he was a jokester.
As you were growing up around him, did you make any observations about the fact that he had no father?
Yeah.
Did you have a father?
No.
Okay. And how did he relate to that? And explain to the jury the relationship you had with him on that issue.
I really don't know exactly the totality of how it affected him, but I believe it did in the sense that he tried to be that for us.
How would he be that for you?
Anything that we needed, if he had it, he would provide it. And also, if there was anything going on, he would always step in to protect. I'm only a month and 4 days younger than Barry, his little brother. He always talked with us about staying out of the streets. He would give us things and basically let us know he never wanted to see us doing the things he did. So basically, he took on that role in our lives. He kind of made sure that we didn't need anything. If we needed something for school or needed a way to school or anything like that, he provided those things and always lectured us about not doing the things he did.
Now, did you grow up in the church?
Yes, I did.
Describe the relationship with the church and your family and him.
Well, my grandmother ended up leaving the church that we grew up in and going to another church. She was the secretary of her church. She stayed right behind it, so we were always at church. She took us to church for everything, even things that, if it was a deacon's meeting, we were there. So we were always in church. At our church, we had a youth choir, and we also had youth ushers. So we participated in those auxiliaries.
And did you answer the call from God at some point in your life?
Yes.
Okay. Is that when you became a minister?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, were you around him when he was selling drugs on the streets or any of that?
No, he would never allow us to be exposed to those kind of things.
Okay. And at some point, when did you start traveling and ministering?
I started traveling in my early 20s.
Okay. Do you remember when he went to prison?
Yes.
Did you have contact with him while he was in prison?
Periodically.
And how was that? On the phone?
Yes, his mother traveled with me, and when I went to minister different places, and so when he would call her, I would get an opportunity to speak to him.
And did he ask about what was going on with his family and check on them?
He always, that's all he wanted to know, how was his children doing? How was his family doing?
How did he refer to as his children? How did he refer to as his son? What was he referred to as?
Little Keith.
Little Keith?
Mm-hmm.
Does he have the same name as his father?
Yes.
So he's a junior?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know where he's at?
I don't remember the city, but I think he's in an institution.
Okay. What kind of institution?
Mental institution.
Do you know his diagnosis?
I do not.
Okay. Before he went away to prison, did you have contact with him when he was around his family?
Yes.
Okay. Did he go out of his way to help people?
All the time. I had a lot of contact with him right before he went because I was always over to Little Keith's mother's house. Okay. I was always there with them, so I would see him a lot.
And tell me what about the contact that you had with him?
It was just always making sure we were okay, laughing and joking. He would stop by to make sure that Little Keith had everything he needed, or Little Keith's mom had everything that she needed, and he would be there for a little while. We would talk, laugh, joke, and then he would be off again.
In your conversations with him on the phone, did he ever talk about religion?
Very seldomly. He mentioned some things, but very seldomly.
Okay. Do you remember when he got out of jail?
Mm-hmm.
Did you spend any time around him when he got out of jail?
Yes.
Okay. Did you notice anything about his belief system?
Yes.
What did you notice?
It changed from what we grew up as. There were a lot of things that he didn't agree with. He did not believe, he believed that religion pretty much was something that was given to us by slave masters to create mental control.
Did that make sense to you at all?
I didn't agree, but I didn't agree with all of his views, but I understood them, yes. He also thought that we were given a lesser value of ourselves by the white portraits of Jesus. He talked about that a lot.
Okay. Did he indicate to you that he had concerns about the police wanting to kill him?
Yeah, he said those things. He mentioned it on Facebook as well.
Okay. Did you read his Facebook communications?
Mm-hmm.
Did he rant about oppression?
Yes.
Assisting.
When he got out of prison, did he work?
Yes.
Was it your understanding he was trying to get his life together?
Yes. My understanding, he was working well towards that. He had really come a long way, actually.
Right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Cross.
Did you grow up in the same general neighborhood as?
Yes and no. Yes, my grandmother lived in Carver Shores, and we lived with her sometime when I was young. So when they were in Carver Shores, we basically were some streets away from each other. And then my mother moved to Ivy Lane, so he lived closer to Hiawassee. They call it Pine Hills, but they were actually closer to they were like a block away from Hiawassee, further away, closer to Hiawassee than Pine Hills. And so we weren't living close as far as our houses weren't close to each other at that time.
How old were you then?
When he moved, when we moved to Ivy Lane,
Yes.
we moved to Ivy Lane when I was probably about 1 or 2 years old.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Redirect.
No question.
All right, thank you, sir. You can step down.
Judge, can we come sidebar?
Sure.
Right to the middle, sir.
We don't need a reporter.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 15-minute break, our afternoon recess. Go make yourselves some coffee. I'll see you in just a little bit. Thanks. Okay, anything else we need to address? Court's in recess.